2.0 now. This has been an experience of amazement to me.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Hey, how you doing, everybody? Yeah, today's going to be an interesting day. So, it's interesting how certain conversations, they don't start in the places that you expect them to. Sometimes they don't start in Washington all the time. They don't start on a debate stage. They don't even start in politics. Sometimes they start in a church, in a community, in a lifetime of talking to people, listening to them, trying to make sense of what people are actually going through. And we talk about this a lot on this show. And so we know somewhere along the way, that conversation starts to shift. It starts asking bigger questions, not just how are people doing, but why are things the way they are? And eventually, who's actually listening? I think we're there a lot. Welcome to Insights and Straight Talk with Rodd Duff and producer Barbie, where we don't do scripts, we don't do talking points, and we definitely don't do surface level conversations. We sit down, kind of lean in a little bit, right? And we let the conversation go where it needs to go. Now, here's what makes today interesting, because today isn't just about politics. It isn't even just about a campaign. It's about what happens when someone who spent decades in ministry, leadership, and community life decides, you know what? Let's step into a completely different arena. Not because they've been climbing some political ladder, but because something in the world around them says, this conversation needs to happen somewhere else too. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, especially here in Mangum, because right now we're already walking into a week where this little town, less than 3,000 people, is about to welcome 30 to 40,000 people a day for the Rattlesnake Derby. And we're going to be out there, right in the middle of it, talking to people, not polling them or anything like that, not scripting them, just asking, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And what do you actually want from the people who are representing you? Because here's the truth. There's a gap right now. We're talking about it just a little bit ago in the green room. There's a gap right now, and it's a real one. It's been going on for decades and decades. This isn't brand new, but it's just getting wider. Like I said, it's a real one. Between the conversations happening in people's lives, that gap, and the conversations happening in leadership. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to close that gap. So when someone like Wade Burleson steps into that space, a pastor, an author, right, a historian, someone who has spent decades engaging people on faith, truth, and accountability, and then says, I'm going to step into that civic conversation too. That's where sitting down and really talking about, not in headlines, not in sound bites, but in real open conversation. So today, we're going to talk about his path, what led him here, what he saw along the way, and what he believes, and how he thinks about things like liberty, government, responsibility, and of course, representation, in a time where those words mean very different things to different people. And that's part of the gap. And more importantly, we're going to connect that conversation to the people, to the voices, to what we're hearing right now on the ground. So wherever you're joining us from, jump into the chat, bring your questions, because this conversation is for you too. So let's get into this thing. Wade, how you doing, brother? Welcome.
Thank you, Rod. What a great introduction. I'm invested.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, you bet.
Okay, so we got you dialed in now, right?
Yeah, we do. I was at my office and we had a problem, and your patience tells me a lot about you as a person. So thanks for those listening and watching, and I look forward to our discussion today.
I'm really looking forward to it too. As you know, we're doing a series. Let me just change this over to the comments because we already have 100 people on.
Oh, wow.
We haven't even got going yet. As I said in a little bit, I want to talk about your journey, that inflection point, what brought you really into politics, but also that continuing journey that brought you here today. Your election is on the 16th, if I'm not correct. If I am correct, yes, June 16th, I think.
That's correct. It's the primary for U.S. Congress.
Explain the difference.
Yeah, great question. Congressional District 3, you see there under my name, CD3, is the largest congressional district in terms of land area in Oklahoma.
It is. I was reading that.
Yeah, it's over half the state. It includes southern Oklahoma City, Tulsa, all of western Oklahoma. You divide the state of Oklahoma into 5 congressional districts. Each has the same number of people. So obviously here in western Oklahoma, Mangum, by the way, which is a beautiful city.
Oh, it's awesome.
Oh, it's incredible. And your story coming from Chicago to Mangum is amazing. And so the rattlesnake hunt, what you guys are doing this weekend is amazing. I would represent Mangum, western Oklahoma, farmers, small communities. So the Republican primary will be June 16th of 2026, which is a Tuesday. And then whoever wins that primary, there's only 2 people running, Frank Lucas and myself. Whoever wins that will then have a Democratic opponent, and the general election in November will take place then. So that's
that being called the midterms. So the primary and the midterms.
Correct.
Great. Well, okay. So thank you for that. Let's step back now and go back onto that inflection point, that moment that made a couple of different things here, but primarily, what made you say, okay, I'm stepping into this conversation?
It's a great question, and I'll make this quick.
Oh, no. Take your time. I like to do this because as people are coming in, they kind of get their coffee going, like it's live, so there'll be hundreds of whatever.
Yeah, of course.
And I want them to kind of get warmed up to you. So take your time.
I love it. No, I love it. But I will be quick because the mind can only comprehend what the seat can endure. So I'm going to be very.
I like that.
Yeah, there we go. So I've been a writer, a historian. I'm an investor. I run a hedge fund. It's a private hedge fund for my wife and me. I have a degree in finance. So I'm an Austrian economist. I love Oklahoma. I ride.
Wait. Whoa. Here's one of the interruptions already. Sorry, you haven't even got your story going yet. Okay, you're a Austrian historian?
Economist.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. What does that mean? Remember, I'm the safety net. I don't get that term. Go ahead.
No. Good for you. An Austrian economist believes that gold and silver are God's money because it's created by God. It's found in the earth. And throughout history, from the days of ancient Lydia, gold and silver have been money. And in the United States, gold and silver were money. They're constitutional money. Yes. But what happened was in 1931, and then, 1933, and then in 1971. In fact, I'll tell you this. Some of the people listening will remember 1971. Richard Nixon was president. It was Sunday night, August the 15th, 1971. Nixon interrupted the #1 show on television, Bonanza, and he took the American dollar off of the gold standard. He closed the gold window. And people like, I don't know what that means. Well, it simply means this. before 1971, when you had a dollar bill, $20 bill, $100 bill, it either said silver certificate or gold certificate. You could take it down to the bank and they would give you silver or gold in exchange for the paper. When the government took off the American dollar from the gold and silver standard, then it became just paper. And if you notice, in fact, let me see, I'll pull out a $20 bill right here just to make it simple. On the bottom of the $20
I'm going to
bill,
I'm going to jump off stage so you can show it up tight.
no, I love it. I love it. On this $20 bill, you have a statement about the good faith and credit of the United States government, meaning you cannot take this down to a bank now and say, I want silver or gold. It is worth what it is based upon the good faith and credit of the United States government. So I love asking people this question, people in Mangum. How much is this worth? What is it? And the answer is, it's a piece of paper with ink. It's only worth what people have confidence in the United States government. And by the way, the word confidence, its root word is con. Fidir means faith. So basically, you have to have faith in the con of the government for this to have any value.
Why did they do that? Why did Nixon do that? I know there was a whole thing behind it, and I know some of the history, but is there anything that do you want to talk about that a little deeper?
Yeah, no, I will. You know, I can do it in 2 sentences. If gold and silver are money and paper currency is credit, meaning it's a promise to pay you in real money if you have this piece of credit, what happens is if you need more credit, if you need more currency because of the Vietnam War, you can't pay for bombs and missiles and food and subsidy. Then what you say is, I'm not going to give you real money for credit. I'm going to convince you that this credit is all you need. And so here's what's interesting, Rod. I mean, and I try to help people understand this. From 1971 until 2026, the value of the dollar you hold in your hand has declined 98%. Here's what that means.
Since what year? What year again?
1971.
Since then. Okay,
The gold standard. So what that means is whatever cost you $1 in 1971 now costs you $10. Oh, and I saw you do this. By the way, your math is better. It's declined by 100%. So it's two. But this is what people don't understand. Inflation is caused by governments who expand the money supply without any base metal, gold and silver, to back it up. So that's what I call Austrian economics. Now, here's an interesting thing, Rod, people will appreciate. My wife and I get barbecue every Saturday night in Enid. And there's a young lady who was a senior in high school, and she served me every Saturday night last year, 40 weeks out of 52. So I was checking out one evening over a year and a half ago, and I gave her a 1-ounce silver coin. And I don't even think she knew my name. And at the time, it was worth like $23. And so it's a big tip for her. But she didn't even know what it was. She goes, "What is this?" I said, "It's a 1-ounce silver coin. Now listen to me. You've been very kind to me. Don't sell it. Don't trade it. Put it in your chest and keep it." A couple of weeks ago, I saw her for the first time since that time.
Right. And
she said, "You're the silver guy." I said, "What are you talking about?" "You gave me the ounces." I said, "Yes." She said, "It's worth $80.
wow.
And she's like, "I've learned something." And this is what I told her. That ounce of silver has not gone up in value. it's the American dollar has decreased in value because silver and gold are the same way. In the Middle Ages, you could take an ounce of gold and buy a man's suit. In 2026, you can take an ounce of gold and buy a man's suit. Gold and silver keep their value. Currencies decrease in value. So, Rodd, I'm going to Congress because my kids and grandkids think money is the dollar bills they have in their pocket, and those dollar bills are declining. 100%. So I'm trying to fix it.
So that was brilliant, the way that you followed that through all the way into that inflection point, because we just got there. So you're running because the concept of really, we're going kind of up more and more and more. And it's not just this administration, not just the last administration and so forth and so on. This has been going on for decades and decades well, since 71 and before, to a degree. I think the best time for the American great middle class as a nation, not just Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is more effective because of what you said, largest landmass. So what does that mean? A lot of rural towns, same amount of people, but they're spread out, right?
Right.
Less and less and less opportunity as it goes, for exactly what you just said. What we're able to do and buy and have for our lives keeps getting pushed further and further and further away. And we've got a lot of people on here already. By the way, we've got over 400 people on already. And yeah, they're jumping on pretty quick here. And so welcome everybody. Say hi to your new fans. Wade, they're all cheering you on here. By any chance, you're going to be in Texas. We actually moved this up because you're traveling to Texas.
Yeah, I'm a speaker at a conference. And by the way, I love the Mangum Rattlesnake Hunt. I would be there tomorrow. I'm speaking in the morning, traveling to Texas. But here's the deal. Yeah, I'll come back on at any time if we don't get through, Rodd, because I really want to hear your story. What you're doing, coming from Chicago, intentionally coming to Mangum, starting this broadcast. I mean, this is how our country changes. Not through legacy media, not through newspapers giving you the standard line. It's through people like Rodd and Barbie talking to you about the real issues, and then people listening in and saying, I like that guy.
That works. Yeah, we're in 18 months. We've done, as I think I've already told you, over 600 episodes. We do one every day, 6 days a week. And do you mind, since you opened the door, let me tell you a couple of things we're doing?
Absolutely.
So this show, we started it in Chicago. I wrote a book, a memoir. I ran a machinery business. Our company made machinery, built it up from zero to, we're approaching 12 million a year. And I had a theft. Somebody pilfered a bunch of money that I didn't know about until later, which was a little over $1 million. So it was a bit of a struggle for a number of years, and then got back on our feet and kind of wound it down and started doing what I think my journey was really here to do. And that's, as you said, I started the book and then I started querying it. People love the writing and so forth, but they're like, do you have a platform? So Barbie and I looked at each other and said, well, let's start a podcast. And this thing's blown up. And out of that, I do a show called Insights and Straight Talk, same show, but with my granddaughter out in California. So it's called Insights and Straight Talk with Rodd Duff, or I'm sorry, with Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rodd. And that show spawned what we call the Regeneration School Project. You know, education here in Oklahoma, everybody knows we're not the top. We're at near the bottom, right?
49th.
So 49th, right. And so we're working on creating a 5th core subject in the school system, and then voices at the table, giving teenagers and young adults, kind of teaching them to find their voice in conversations and debate and staying human. You know, that emotional time. We don't teach them till they go out into the world. So let's start doing it now. And then we have Mangum 2030, which is the rural regeneration initiative, and that I think's really important in what you were just saying, because the opportunities aren't here. So what happens? 18-year-olds start to leave if they're ever going to make it. We're creating a digital, there's a whole 5 pillars. I won't get into the whole thing, but that's something I definitely would love to chat with you more about, because that's why we came to Mangum, was for that reason. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, well,
exciting time.
No, good for you. And thank you for taking the time. Because, Rodd, you and Barbie understand this country only changes when grassroots people take the gifts God has given them and start making a difference. And you're doing that. So thank you.
Well, and I can throw that right back at you there, my friend, because, we talked about it in the opening, right? You've led this life and you've been through this arc of leadership. I mean, you're a brilliant man, very intelligent, obviously well-spoken and well-informed, and a pastor, right? So now you're making that change and making, oh, by the way, I'm running for city commissioner now.
Oh, congratulations, Rodd.
I didn't want to, but I was talked into it. And honestly, in some ways I want to do it. In some ways I don't, because the show is also doing similar purposes for the town, but the city commissioner is also an important seat. So
you'll be excellent. And you're bringing recognition to Mangum through what you're doing. So congratulations.
Well, I started thinking about this, how to do this, right? Because we've got 3,000 people in this town, somewhere in there. So it's not a really big town, and it is rural. So there's nothing for 30 miles in any direction except for farms and beautiful scenery. So I'm very happy about it. But what's interesting is, so I use Mangum and constantly use it, not only to build what we're building here in Mangum, but also the things that happen here. I know people in Atlanta, in Chicago, in California, that are saying, he's talking about Mangum there, but the same things are happening here. Exactly. So it's from the inside out. That's what I'm trying to perform here or pursue. Yeah, it's working out.
Good for you.
Here. Hold on. All right. So you mind taking a couple of questions and we'll go back to slinging things around here in a minute. But
of course.
Jason's got, by the way, 500 people are on the show.
Wow.
Basically a quarter of Mangum, or no, not even that. Yeah, about a third of Mangum are on the show. So great live show. What inspired Wade? What inspired you to enter politics after ministry? I think this fits pretty well right now where we're talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I know you said the broad thing, but there's got to be more specifics as well.
No. Jason, if you're watching, I'll answer it directly. I was 60 years old and I had been 40 years in the pastorate. And I was also a writer. And I'll
hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll be very candid. In 2020, there's a New York Times reporter by the name of Sabrina Tavernese who drove to Enid, and she spent a couple of days with me. I took her around, and the New York Times did a front page article above the fold, which is a big deal.
That's a really big deal.
Really big deal. And COVID woke me up to the place. I told my wife, I said, I love what I'm doing, being a pastor. It's the greatest church. I've been here 30 years.
You built up something special.
It's these people love us. I love them, but we have 5 grandkids, and I've preached the message of grace enough. Now I need to speak a message of truth to the nation. And I told my wife, I want to retire and I want to run for Congress. And she said, you can do both. I said, honey, I really can't. And here's why. I think the message of grace for the church is different than the message that the nation needs. I won't get into it. So I resigned, retired, but I don't like the word retired. I resigned, loving it. ran for Congress, gave Frank the closest race
He did.
had. Yeah. Now here's the deal.
2022, right?
2022, right.
Yeah.
I didn't call anybody, ask for permission. I didn't follow. I mean, there's a way in which you enter institutional politics. I didn't do that. I just entered. I did call him.
Good.
I said, hey, Frank, listen, I just want you to know it's not personal. This is what I feel like I need to do. Okay. My wife and I loved every bit of it. Gave him the closest race he's ever had. Didn't win the primary. And there were 3 people in the primary, and some great stories that we get out. I went to Mangum. I went all over Western Oklahoma, but I didn't spend any money on television. He and his campaign spent $1.5 million. And yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, great. 2024, I started my own private ministry called Astoria. Then I became what's called a trainer for LLMs, large language models. I became an artificial intelligence trainer, basically training AI, all different kinds of platforms, LLMs, to respond to questions.
Wait. Hold on. So I know a lot about AI. We talk a lot about AI. My son, when my oldest son had his daughter, my youngest granddaughter, or my next granddaughter, I guess. He started teaching me about AI, and I know enough to be dangerous. What was it you just described?
Well, most people don't realize, of course, that AI, and the scientific name is large language models, LLMs.
Okay, I've never heard that.
No, that's okay. So Grok, ChatGPT, these are LLMs. Okay, so all LLMs are like a mirror of society. AI doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a conscience. Doesn't have a brain, really. Just has a really good memory.
Correct.
It scrapes the internet and gives back a reflection or a mirror of what is inputted. So, Rodd, you'll appreciate this. I really felt that AI needed a reflection of a creator, meaning government's not God, natural law, meaning life, liberty, and the pursuit of private property. And I know people say, oh, no, it's the pursuit of happiness. No, Thomas Jefferson said the pursuit of owning private property, and he would change it to happiness as long as we taught our children that life, liberty, and the pursuit of private property these are inalienable rights given from God, not the government. And the government only protects those rights. So, Rodd, what that means is simply this: inalienable. It's a big word, but so I'll break it down. You go down to a bank because you want to buy a car, and you take out a lien. They give you money, and then you sign a lien, and all that means
you don't own it.
Bingo. The bank owns your car. And if you don't believe that, just miss a payment. And the bank is going to take your car. Why do you think the Constitution says life, liberty, and the pursuit of private property is inalienable? Unalienable. What that means is you can't give them away, and they cannot be taken away. And Rodd, what's sad to me is Americans today, take a look at New York. They're talking about take away private property. Let's make everything socialistic. Let's make it communal. And I'm like, are you guys nuts? This is a constitutional right to own private property. Life, the same thing about life. Liberty. I'll tell you a great story, Rodd, and you interrupt me if I'm going too long. We just came on a transatlantic cruise. My wife and I went on it together. And I'm like, she had to talk.
Love cruises.
Yeah, no, well, there you go. She had to talk me into it because I wasn't sure I would like it. Ended up loving
it. Oh, really?
No,
I love cruises.
So we left from Florida, arrived in Barcelona, Spain, but about 2/3 of the way outside the gates of Gibraltar, I know my history. We were going to stop at an island called Madeira. And so Madeira, yeah, it's like the Hawaii of Europe. And so we stopped, we go, I told my wife, I said, look, I'll go with you on this 2.5-week cruise, but when we get to Madeira, I want you to follow me. And she did. We go to a winery. And here's where we went. There was a winery. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, George Washington, they loved Madeira wine. Wow. During the Revolution, there was a phrase. It was always used at after parties when our founding fathers would get together. And the phrase became very well known. Have some Madeira, my dear. We get to the island and I find this winery that John Hancock, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, it was their favorite winery. The same family owned it since the 1700s. So I go in and I say, listen, I know my history. On July the 4th, 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, John Hancock signed his big John Hancock signature. And most people don't know why he did, but I do. He had a ship coming from Madeira called Liberty that was confiscated by the British in Boston Harbor. It eventually led to the Bostonians revolting against the British in what we know as the Boston Tea Party, but very few people know that John Hancock's ship, the Liberty, was taken with massive barrels of Madeira wine in it. And what happened was, when they all signed the Declaration of Independence and the famous statement was made, we will either live together or hang together. John Hancock was the one who signed it first and then
because he was mad.
Bingo, he poured a bottle of Madeira wine that he had and he gave it to everyone who signed it and said, to liberty, to life, to property. And they all toasted. And so I said to the guy who owned the winery, I want that bottle from the same grape. And he says, we don't have it. I said, you don't have one? He said, no. And then he goes, I got a picture of it. He took me down to the basement. They had one bottle left from the same vineyard of the founding fathers. I won't tell you what I paid for it, but I bought it. I've brought it home. And Rodd, I know enough history to understand. I'm fighting for liberty. I'm fighting for America. I'm fighting for the privilege of being free. And on July the 4th, whatever happens in this congressional bid, I'm going to break that bottle open. I'm going to pour it for my kids and grandkids. And we're going to toast to life, liberty, and the pursuit of private property.
Oh, I've been writing a little note here just to make sure I go back a little bit, because you starting that point. Oh, by the way, would you read this, please, from Joey?
Excellent discussion. Really enjoying this conversation live. Thank you, Joey.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. So, life, liberty, and the pursuit of private property. And you mentioned what's going on in New York, and other places are going on, and it's kind of frustrating. California, and it's California's probably at the next level up. The governor out there is a freaking
agreed.
Yeah, it just angers me. I'm from so I used to move back and forth between California and Chicago, right? So right. I get it. Oh my God, there's 600 people on.
It's crazy. Hey, by the way, Rodd, it's not just California. Listen to me. It's Oklahoma. And let me tell you, one of the things.
And Texas, too. Look at what's going on in Austin.
It's bizarre. But one of the things.
You know why? Go ahead, but let me come back to you on that. Go ahead with what you're saying.
No,
there's a reason.
Well,
okay. Go ahead.
Here's the thing about property in Oklahoma, and this is extraordinarily dangerous. We have Chinese nationals who are purchasing farmland in Oklahoma. Now, People say to me all the time, wait, it's illegal. Foreigners can't own Oklahoma farmland. Here's the problem. They will bring a bag of cash. They will take it to the office of the man who either owns the property or who could be the broker for the property. And they will say, here you go, $100,000. Go sign the deed, own the property, but let us have it. Rodd, this drives me nuts. And I am trying and working on helping. Now here's the deal, Rodd. I know two farmers. I know one, there was a grocery store manager south of Enid who was the broker for $100,000 for the Chinese who gave it to him. His name is not known. He bought the farm. I believe 5 or 6 people were murdered. It became a marijuana grow farm. It was a couple of years ago. Horrific crime. And people are like, how does this happen? I'll tell you how it happens. Because Oklahomans have lost sight of the fact that private property is a right from God. And we have nations seeking to invade this country to obtain property that only citizens should own. So I'm working as hard as I can to make sure from California to New York, there is no property, particularly farmland, that is owned by any foreign agent or nationality. And by the way, if you're a farmer and you sold your farm because you got $100,000 in cash, please don't be mad at me. I'm telling you, I'm not against you. I'm for farmers. But the only way we can save our country is to keep foreign nations out from invading us through the purchase of property, so that the constitutional guarantee of citizens like us owning private property is overturned by foreign nationals who are bringing our country down. So, Rodd, that's what I'm fighting for.
I have a theory about that too. The point I was looking at when you were talking about Mondavi and those threats, and you're shocked by the whole entire part of New York just not blowing up on it. There's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but people are kind of not really. And here's why: because the younger people growing up today, they've never lived in any of that, and we always hear those stories, and that's fine. But the problem is they don't hear the histories in school, so they grow up and get into their 20s, late 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, and beyond. And they don't realize, how this is the first. My kids are in their 40s, or just before 40, and the other one just turned 40. Boy, I'm old. And like you talked about grandchildren, I have grandchildren too. I think you and I are about a year apart. But the sad part about that is that the education isn't there. The whole discussion, basically there's no preparation for life. This is the 5th core subject I was talking about. And on top of that, they don't teach that history because they know that right now, this generation, my kids' generations, they're not going to be wealthier than their parents, or at least the trajectory is that way. First time since the Great Depression, I believe, ever in America, that the kids didn't end up, not because they inherited big gobs of money, but because the opportunities, you start here, and now you start here, and now you start here. And this time they're starting back here. And there's a lot more opportunity. And so now what are they doing? They're looking at capitalism sucks. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. Because they're coming from a place of they don't know what they don't know. And that's our fault. That for the way they were brought up, and more importantly, for letting the schools, the educational system stay. It's the only big system in our country that hasn't kept up. It hasn't changed in 50 years or so.
Yeah. Rodd, you and I are kindred spirits. I just put something in the studio. There's a picture. I don't know if you can bring it up for people to see. I just uploaded it for you.
Oh, here. Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, a nation.
Oh, look at this.
Cannot be conquered by invasion until it collapses internally by indoctrination. And what you just said is spot on. Now, Rod,
It is.
I think you know Charlie Kirk was a very, very dear friend of mine. He would come to Oklahoma. I would take him around.
Whoa, whoa. You would take around, you would work with Charlie Kirk. You knew him as a person I mean, it makes sense now that I put two and two together. But you were involved with him in some ways.
No, I was a friend.
Nice.
In fact, I'll tell you this. I was going to tell you, Charlie understood that the only way you change a nation is by stopping the indoctrination that was occurring in our college campuses and in our high schools. And so TPUSA, I mean, I could tell you story after story after story, but very few people know this. I want to, I don't know if you could see it.
Hold on.
Yeah. This is a text. This is my last text to Charlie, and you'll see it right here. You'll see it was to Charlie Kirk. I texted this to him, and I'm going to read it to you. Charlie, they put a block around Jeremiah's neck and shackled him in a dungeon. They sawed Isaiah in half. They murdered all the prophets 4 millennia ago. But today, we honor the prophets and their courage and their words, and we do not remember the names of their persecutors and assassins. Hang tough, Charlie Kirk. You are a modern prophet. Now, he responded right here. Thank you, Wade. You were so kind. It was just a little bit later, he was assassinated. And everybody listening to me right now, I want to ask you a question. Name right now the assassin of Charlie Kirk. You don't know it.
Great point.
But you know Charlie Kirk's name. And Rod, I'm running for Congress. And by the way, you know this. I'm not taking a salary. I don't even have a campaign where I'm taking money. I'm running for my kids and grandkids. I have the spirit of Charlie Kirk in me. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to speak the truth. I'm not in this for myself. And I'm going to just help people see that we can turn this nation around. But we have to be courageous, speak the truth, and ask not, as John Kennedy said, what our government can do for us, but ask ourselves, what can we do for our nation? And that's why I'm running.
One of the best things ever said, and this, what frustrates me about what you're saying, and gives me hope as well, because our founding fathers, they created something, adding the free speech, which, you know, is a big difference between us and Europe. Even free countries don't have the rights we have. And the reason that being so is because they all, we the people, we the people. This is about from the people, by the people, for the people. That was what was created. And back to education, we are in the position we are because we either wrote all red or all blue, or, you know, we don't listen to what the people that are representing us. Thank God we're not a democracy. Thank God we're a democratic republic. Otherwise, New York and California would make all the rules because they have most of the people, right?
Yeah, you're right.
But they're not the most important. I mean, it's all equal. So what do? We elect Wade to go represent us, to take our needs to Washington, right?
Absolutely.
We don't do that though.
No. Yeah.
And that's what they want. Keep us in boxes.
No, Rod, you're spot on, Rod. Here's what most Americans don't understand.
This is all our fault.
It is our fault.
We can blame everybody in the government, but it's our fault.
It's our fault. No. Our founding fathers feared democracy. They called it the tyranny of the majority. And they said, anytime a nation thinks they're a democracy, the majority will bring tyranny toward the minority. And so what they said is this: we must be a nation of law. And so a republic is a nation of law. So what is our law? Our law is the Constitution. And it was built upon John Locke's natural law. So here's the thing. And Rodd, our kids don't know.
Dig down on John Locke's natural law. Dig down on what that is a little bit, would you please?
Yeah, of course. Here's what John Locke said.
Damn, dude, you are an intelligent man.
No, you're kind.
I like talking to you. Go ahead.
No. John Locke said, because every human being, red and yellow, black and white, all are created in the image of God, called the imago Dei. That is Latin for image of God, imprinted within the heart and mind of every human being is the law of God, which can be summarized in this statement: I will neither transgress on your person or your property, and I will always fulfill my promises. That's natural law. It has nothing to do with worship or Christianity or, it's just, look, as human beings with the imago Dei imprinted within us, I will not transgress on your person to harm you or your property to steal it, and I will fulfill my promises. The first portion of that is what we call criminal law. You transgress on a person or their property, you harm a person or steal their property, that's criminal law. If you don't fulfill your promise, that's civil law. That's what the Constitution calls natural law. And so basically, I'm going to Congress not to get government in your backyard, in your bedroom, at your barbecue. I'm going to Congress to keep the government out of your backyard, your bedroom, and your barbecue. And here's the key: to prevent people from transgressing on your private property, your person, or violating their promises to you. And so I have to say to you, COVID, in my opinion, was a transgression on private property and people, a forcing of taking a vaccine. And Rodd, my wife, she's brilliant. She has her doctorate from Vanderbilt. Her specialty was in vaccinology. And so she said to me, and by the way, this has never been recorded. You'll be the first podcast that ever hears it. She said to me,
hold on. This is a big picture.
My wife said to me when they came out with the new vaccine, she has her doctorate in vaccinology from Vanderbilt. Brilliant. She said, Wade, I can't take it. I said, why not? She said, because it takes 10 years minimum for a new vaccine. This is under emergency approval. And she said, I've already had COVID. You've had COVID. I'm not going to take it. You know what? She was a CNO, chief nursing officer. She was working for a large company, a clinical supervisor of thousands of nurses.
Oh, wow.
She refused to take it. They fired her. She was cleaning her desk out, and they had an emergency board meeting. And they called and said, you know what, Rochelle, we're not going to fire you. You stay there. We're going to give freedom to other nurses not to take the vaccine. Because of her courage, she protected the jobs in the organization that she was with. So here's the thing. That was the breaking point for me. I said to her, when my wife goes through that pressure based upon her intelligence, based upon her personal intellectual acumen, she says, I can't take the vaccine, and then she's demanded to take it by outside forces, including a company that has pressure from the government. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Our country has lost its collective mind. And that was the beginning of me saying, I'm going to do what I can to fight for our country. And by the way, she's brilliant. She's beautiful. she and I, we're sitting here, Rod, we were talking today. If I'm elected, it'll be a miracle. I mean, they'll talk about it all across the United States because nobody's ever done it like this. I've not raised $1. I've not done one television commercial. I've not spent $1. All I'm saying to people, if you've got 600 people, 700 people, I'm saying, look, just share the word. Talk about Wade Burleson. And I don't need it. I'd be better off if I didn't get it. But I'm telling you, I think if God wants me there, people will rise up and say, we're going to elect Wade Burleson, and then I'll fight for you, your kids, and your grandkids. And by the way, every salary, most people don't know this, I think it's $175,000 that a congressman is paid plus benefits. And then after 5 years, if you serve 5 years, you get that salary plus increases for the rest of your life. I have sworn I will not take a salary. I will not take benefits, and anything I receive will go back, meaning there'll be an office because we got to fight for CD3, but I'm not taking any money because I'm fighting for farmers. I'm fighting for citizens. I'm fighting for your kids. I'm fighting for our schools. And by the way, I am a fighter, but I'm also very gracious to people who disagree with me. But I will fight for the Constitution and for the right to live as an American free from oppression and tyranny.
You know, I'll add to what you just said there, because you saw me taking my little notes here. You want to hear a conspiracy theory, which I'm sure you already know about, and I love using that word because so many conspiracy theories seem to come true. What I was thinking here is, I think COVID, this is taking to an extreme. I don't have extreme view. I'm an independent, actually. But right. So I lean a little right, lean a little left, depending on what the subject is. And I do vote split ticket at times. It depends, especially locally, because that's where most politics are.
Right.
You get to the president and so forth. That's a big picture thing. But our commissioners and our county and our state representatives that are going to Washington for us, it's still local, right? It's
all politics, Rod, is ultimately local.
Absolutely. But I think that COVID, I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's still a little, I think that COVID at some point, the Fauci's of the world, I think there was like because of the direction that we were headed, we were really headed in a very dangerous trajectory. And I think, I'm not a fan of Trump, but I'm a fan of results. And I've always gone by trust but verify. And what I think has stopped was going on up to then, and even in his first term, because he had no clue of what he was doing, but it all kind of, he was fighting battles all the time. Now he's kind of turned the tables. It's interesting. But I think that they were actually using COVID to see how far the people could be managed, how far they could be controlled. When they start telling you that you can't go to your job if you have COVID, and on and on and on, they were blaming and throwing mud at people on one side of the spectrum was being brutal. And that's where it all started that gap started to increase and increase and increase, because logical people, when you get a flu bug and you get a virus,
right.
and you get affected by that. Well, that puts immune system up for it. But how far were we as American people willing to be controlled? I think that had something to do, at least, maybe not the original of it, maybe even then, but the way the government acted.
Yeah.
And the way it's scary to me how they even tried that.
Yeah. They called Noah a conspiracy theorist until it started raining. And here's the thing about
that's a really good point. Yeah. Oh my God.
Here's the thing about the government. The thing that just blew my mind away. By the way, when COVID first came out, we didn't know a lot. My wife and I didn't know a lot. So we opened our church up to first responders. We provided food for people. I delivered food to people who were locked up. So we were all in. to helping people. But then what happened was we began seeing hospitals were having to lay nurses off because nobody was sick. Nobody was coming to the hospital. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are we shutting everything down and the hospitals are empty? Okay.
Remember the ships and the tents that were totally empty in New York?
Totally empty. And then the thing, it was my Rubicon was this. The government issued an order that bars and cannabis shops could remain open, but churches had to be closed.
Bizarre.
And then this is what I said, and it got me in trouble. So help me, you close a church and keep a bar and a cannabis shop open, I promise you, we will not close. And we stayed open throughout the entire time. And you know what? That's why the New York Times came. And Sabrina Tavernese, the reporter that did the article, when I was driving her around, she was in Enid. I mean, we're a little bigger than Mangum. Y'all got 3,000. We've got
where exactly is Enid? I'm only been
here.
No
worries. You've got Lawton, which is like the center of southwestern Oklahoma. You've got McAllister, southeastern Oklahoma, Tulsa. You've got Oklahoma City in the center. Enid is the northwestern hub of northwestern Oklahoma. It's northwest. It's about 80 miles northwest of Oklahoma City. So from Mangum, you would just go straight north. So, so I'm driving her around. It's a wonderful city.
It's pretty powerful too, isn't it? I mean, for the size, it's very powerful.
Advanced Air Force Base. I mean, you've got, you've got, it's a dynamic city and it's growing hot. So Sabrina said to me, I feel like I'm an alien on a different planet. I said, what do you mean? She said, I live in New York. She said, I'm walking around. People are smiling. Nobody's wearing a mask. They're all happy. They're all talking to people. They're not keeping their distance. And I looked at Sabrina. I said, really? She said, this is like a different world. I said, listen, it's because the people here trust God and they're not afraid, and government is not their God. And so
you just said it right there. You just said it right there. Government is, and that's from the beginning of us, of the country.
From the beginning, our founders said, our rights come from nature and nature's God, not from government. Now, anybody listening, and you're like, okay, Wade, but what would you do for Oklahoma? Let me just be completely transparent.
Hey, why don't you dial in with the adventure show? We've got a show on here I love it when other podcasts come on. What's the biggest reason, Wade, you decided to run for District 3? We've talked a lot about that, but I think you're getting into it right now.
Yeah, no, I will. And thank you, Adventure Show, for what you're doing. Here's the reason I decided to run.
Specifically District 3.
District 3. I live in District 3. Right. Most people don't realize that a congressman, you can live in any state and run for Congress.
I did not know that.
Most people don't.
Yeah. That's bad.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so I live in District 3. Here's why I decided to run. And you're new, Rodd, so you don't know this, but the former Speaker of the House from the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s, when I was growing up, his name was Carl Albert. He was from Oklahoma, from McAllister. Speaker of the House. He served 30 years. 30 years. Our representative for District 3 has served 32 years.
Wow.
Our founding fathers, when they established Congress, none of them took a salary.
Here you go.
They left the farms. They went and served. And they had to go back because they had to make money. So they came and served for the common good. Then they went back. Well, you know what? I decided what better year than in the 250th anniversary of the United States of America to do what our founding fathers did. If I'm elected, I'm going to DC without a salary I will not serve more than 6 years. And by the way, I can't serve more than 6 years. I'm going to have to come home and make money. But I'm going to go to D.C. if elected, and I'm going to fight for Oklahomans. And by the way, there's two people that are a priority in my mind. Number one, farmers.
Yeah.
Farmers, it's a national security issue. And I will go to D.C. if elected, and I will see Congress establishes the budget. I will do everything within my power to either take out these urban grants and endowments for these major cities like Minneapolis, where billions was given to illegal immigrants. And I will say this, look, give it to our farmers, not in the form of subsidies. Don't tell them, or plant your crops, harvest your crops, and then destroy it. No. We need production.
Yeah.
Give them grants, forgive their loans for equipment, empower them for the best production they could ever have. And we've got the money, but it's got to go to the farmers. And people say, yeah, but we've got Frank Lucas, who's been there 32 years, and good night, the farm bill, and he's all over that. And I'm like, okay, farmers, look me in the eye and answer this question. Are you better off after 32 years? And if you're not, then maybe what you've got to do is you've got to get somebody who will fight for you, who believes that my security, my kids' security, my grandkids' security is based upon your success. And I will fight for you by getting the funds you need to make sure Western Oklahoma farmers not only survive, but thrive. So I'm running for the national security of the United States.
So when you say national, 2 points here for me. When you say national security, it's because it's our food supply. Is that what you're referring to? Or
Absolutely.
The land thing? Okay.
But by the way, both. Land thing, meaning foreign possession of land.
Right.
That's where our farms are. So what we've got, I'll give you an example of
it's not just here too. I wanted to bring this up.
all over.
When I lived in Chicago, it was happening in Iowa, Indiana, and Chicagoland area. It's happening all over.
Thing.
I just heard about it.
No. Small dairy farms are going out of business because they are over-regulated and they are being driven into the ground. Your small mom and pop farms, which used to be the backbone of America, Thomas Jefferson said, let's not be an urban country, let's be a farming country. Because when you work with your hands and you plow the soil and you plant your crops, you're going to learn about God. You're going to learn about hard work. Well, what we've become is an urban country, and we're giving illegals even all kinds of money. I'm saying, Rodd, this. I know I get passionate. But the thing is, if I get to DC, I may not be able to accomplish what I know needs to be done, but I promise you this, I will let the country know who's stopping what needs to be done. Make sense?
100%. And tying that back to when you said 30 years in office and this and that, an argument I heard a while back, which actually I think was about the time Trump first ran, which was, you've got to we have a complicated system, and we're this big United States, and you need people that know the system to work the system. It's the opposite. It's the opposite, because what happens is now you have people, to me, politicians seem to come in for a reason,
right,
with a passion, with what I see a problem, it can be gotten, and then they start getting indoctrinated through the system, and then you have to give up here and give up there, and then you start playing politics. If people came in and shifted out, we're not talking about dumb people coming in, we're talking about smart people coming in. And I don't know that any of the politicians have half the intelligence of what I've sat here and heard today. I mean, I'm biased in some ways that I don't know everything. You're on the show, I'm getting a firsthand thing. But the going back to the founders, right? That was the plan. Come in, serve the country that has
plan.
given you so much, and then get your ass back to the farm, to the dentist office, to the
That's what they said.
The ministry, right? That was it.
Now, let me tell you something that most people don't know, Rod. And they're going to listen to me and they're going to like, wait, are you telling the truth? No, I mean, Mark Wayne Mullen's a dear friend. I mean, James Langford has been a friend for many years. I mean, whether you like these guys, politicians or not, all the people running for governor, all 5 of them, they're friends. I love and I respect them, but they're politicians. Here's what a lot of you may not know. If you're elected to Congress, the first thing they do is they sit you down and they tell you where you're to go at least 2 days a week, which is an office building next to Congress, where you get on the phone and you raise money for the party that elected you.
That's the whole job.
That's the job. And then what they say is, we'll give you a prestigious position. We'll give you money as an incumbent. We'll follow through with this. Just rate. So here's people say to me, by the way, they're correct. They're like, wait, you're going to get elected and you don't know anybody. You're not bought. They can't control you. So they're not going to give you a position. And I'm going to be like, absolutely right. But let me ask you a question. Who do you think the people are going to listen to? A guy spending his time raising money, or a guy who's not even taking a salary and is saying, I'm here to help Americans? So Rod, here's the thing. I don't know that I can win, but if I do, it'll shake the foundations of national politics. We'll see what happens.
Well, you gave the example earlier on with through your wife who stood up and said,
absolutely,
I'm not taking it. She got fired, and then the reality of things came out. And that's where I kind of positioned that into that conspiracy theory that I was talking about before. How far were they testing us to see how far we'd go? But the point being is, she had to stand up and, who's out front changing the world? You take the first arrows, right? So that's part of the deal. But it ain't going to happen until, like what you just said. You don't know anybody. That system is entrenched. They've had hundreds of years to practice and get it better and better over time, because politicians do what politicians do. That's a personality going after office, not necessarily to fix the country, or maybe in the beginning was, but then it's about themselves and their party. And it's about even pocketing, making their own, the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. That all stuff is real. It's conspiracy theory right now because only half the country believes it. But as it rolls out, it goes. You're in the same boat until you and people like you take those first arrows and continue to drive down or up that mountain. Then we aren't going to change. It takes change makers to make change, and nothing's going to change if we don't start bringing in people who are not, nor do they want to be, lifetime politicians. But I do want to ask you this question. How did ministry, how did that experience, 40 years, help prepare you for politics? You can reflect back on what I'm saying, because I don't think anybody 30 years in office, and I'm not pointing to anybody, I'm just saying in general, this should be a one cycle in, 2 cycle out, kind of, that's it, serve your time. And I think the government would run a lot better, because 16 trillion a year, a great deal of it's getting wasted. We need stuff. Yeah. We got to spend it, but it should be coming back more to the farmers, to the people.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. And by the way, Todd, what a great question. Let me tell you how ministry prepared me. And if you don't know me, you're going to have to take my word for it, but you can ask people who do know me. My life motto is sometimes offends, never offended. So if you listen to me talk, I'm passionate. Okay. I mean, if I say pass the salt, pass the pepper, I get passionate because it's in my gut. It's in my heart. In the book of Ezekiel, the Lord told Ezekiel to eat the scroll. What that meant was take it internally before you ever speak externally. So all these things that I'm talking about, they're within me. They're my fire. I'm passionate, but I love people. I love people who disagree with me. I never bend. I never break. I stand on principle, but I'll never ridicule a person who disagrees with me. I will try to be persuasive in what I say to them, and I will love them, even if they disagree with me. I won't conform maybe to what they want me to be, but unless they can convince me my principles are wrong. And that's why my motto is sometimes offends, because my principles offend people. They're constitutional, they're personal, meaning natural law, John Locke. But if you oppose them, I'm never offended. So I'm not going to call you names. I'm not going to denigrate you. And I've made a commitment, even for Frank Lucas, who's running against me. I posted on his site, and Frank, his team will probably listen to this. And I want to pass it on to Frank. Frank, I respect the heck out of you for spending 32 years flying back and forth from Washington, doing what you believed was
that
best.
is a lot of dedication. You got to give him that. I mean, that is absolute all the way across, and fighting for this state. Absolutely.
Yeah, I give it.
Love some of that. Love what he's doing.
No, I give it to him. Even though my principles are no man should serve more than 6 years. That's term limits.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm against him as a person. I'll fight for the principle and say thank you for the 32 years. So the role, Clive asked this, and then Todd, I think, was the previous.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So this is the other side. I was going to bring this up. So how did ministry experience prepare you for politics? But here's the side that gets a little bit, gets some pushback.
Yeah.
Because the difference in church and state. So,
Yeah.
but still God influences us. I'm a religious man myself. I have a reason that I'm still here. I shouldn't be here several times. So that's a great story. We'll tell it another day. But what Clive says here is, what role should faith play? And this is a much easier question to ask today because of today's administration and what they're doing. Right. But what role should faith play in shaping public policy? It's a fair question. I like it, Clive.
It's an incredible question. And in fact, I'll answer it this way. People say, by the way, I believe in the separation of church and state. Let me say that again.
Absolutely.
I believe in the separation of church and state. Here's what I mean by that. When I was a shepherd, a servant of a church, we would bring prisoners in from prisons and we would feed them. I sometimes, in fact, there's a picture on the internet, I would preach in an orange jumpsuit. And I did that because there was a prisoner. The state began requiring them to wear orange. They couldn't wear clothes. And we'd have a 50 to 75 to 100 sitting up in the balcony. And one guy didn't come because he was embarrassed to wear his orange. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to teach in an orange prison.
That.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
You can find it on the internet. Okay, so we'd feed them. Then we would house the homeless. We would go after. We would do what Christ did, because we're a faith organization. But here's the thing, and I tell people this all the time, and if you're listening, bear with me here. The problem with the liberals is they want the state, the country, to act like the church. And the problem with conservatives is they want the church to act like the state. Here's what I mean by that. Liberals say, open the borders, forgive criminals, set the prisoners free, give everybody everything they need, do all this. And I say to you, what are you talking about? That's what the church should be doing. By the way, that's what I did. That's what I led our people to do.
Yeah.
But the state should close the borders, provide for the common good, the national defense, should punish the lawbreaker, and it's the church that should forgive and provide. So I say to you, leftist liberals, who say to me, wait, by the way, Rodd, you'll appreciate this. For the 40 years I was pastoring, they called me a liberal. My denomination called me a liberal. Then I ran for Congress, and now people call me a conservative fascist. I'm like, make up your mind. Here's what I did, Rodd. I separate the church from the state. So to the question asked, what role does faith play in government policy? Here's my response. Our founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence, which was the document that declared who we were as a people, they mention the Creator, the laws of nature, and nature's God. So they understood what it meant to have faith in God, but they didn't.
You have that $20 bill up on.
There you go. In God we trust. Now, someone might say, "Oh, but that was the 1950s." I know all the history, all that. My point is, they don't mention the name Jesus Christ in the Declaration. They mention nature and nature's God. Now, my friend Charlie Kirk had a tremendous talk where he would talk about states who mentioned Jesus Christ in their state constitutions. So it's brilliant. But here's the thing, for Congress, for the Declaration, faith in God and the Creator. By the way, Rodd, I say this. You cannot believe rights come from God unless you believe there is a God. If you don't believe there's a God,
oh, good point,
then rights come from government.
Yeah.
And if you read the Declaration, the reason our founding fathers declared their independence from England is because the king took the place of God and took the rights that are from God and inalienable away from the colonists in America. I know what they were thinking, but here's the thing. I don't care if you believe in Buddha, Allah, Jesus Christ. I don't care what you call the Creator. Just agree with me that our rights come from the one who formed us in our mother's wombs. Once you do that, then God is above government. And that's the role of faith in public policy. I will never try to make a person a Christian in government policy. Privately, of course I will. But in public policy, I will always guide people to an understanding that your life, your liberty, and your ability to own private property are rights that come from God, not the government. Make sense?
It makes 1,000% sense. And there's so many things we can do. Yes, we should do another show, and especially before the election. I'm sure we'll be able to work something out. I don't know your schedule, and we'll talk about that offline here. But because there's so many things that we could talk about here. You just made something. We talk a lot about religion, different religions on this show. We talk a lot about AI. We talk, anything that concerns or empowers the great middle class. That's kind of the umbrella, right?
Yes.
So it gives us some different lanes to talk about. But what you're talking about there, you didn't care if somebody studies Buddha or on and on and on. Well, if you really look at the religions, no matter what, there are differences in different disciples and different different components. But at the end of the day, every single religion, first of all, everyone believes in the same God, in the same exact God. And then stories in the Bible, you can look back. You're a historian, you know this.
I do.
There's different. So those stories
are the same.
So there is, even though the dialects, the parts of you got to really start really looking at something there beyond just Christianity, just beyond the surface that people look at it. There's something. So somebody told me once, if God isn't real, or if Jesus isn't real, if religion isn't real, then it really doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. But if it is, it's the most important thing ever to any person on earth. And I know we shifted off a little bit there, but I did want to bring that back in. And I want you to read what Dixon Rodd's Rude says here.
Yeah.
Did you read that out loud?
Yeah, Dixon Rude. This conversation feels very real. Appreciate the transparency. Dixon, thank you for that. I appreciate Rodd and his transparency. Rodd, I put one more picture down there in the platform.
Oh, all right, there we go.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. My deal is this. I'm not running for Congress for anything that I can obtain from the government. I'm running for Congress to bring about concrete solutions for problems that require conflict resolution. And I will fight for the rights of Oklahomans. So anyway, what a tremendous podcast. I see Clive right here says, how did the Oklahoma District 3 campaign shape his?
Well, I want to add to this. So Clive's written a couple things on here. I think he chimed in a minute ago. He's coming up here in a second again. But I'm going to say this. So you're now 4 years later running again. And so over that time, there's been some development of things you've seen. Yeah. I'd like to ask this question. To me, it's something I live by, and I think it came from the show. By the way, you still have time, right? Because we got
as long as you want.
I'm. By the way, we're over 1,000 people.
Wait! Are you kidding?
So part of Greer County is like, I think a pretty good part of Greer County at least, and we came here about 8 months ago, and about 3 months ago, I started really talking to people about the show. And in those last 3 months, we've gotten over almost 600 people. We were at 500 a couple of weeks ago, new subscribers just from Mango. So these messages are important. And I'm not just saying for you and your voting constituency, but the messages are really coming through. So as you're looking at that, by the way, so let me get this out. There's your phone, I just put on a QR code. That's to our website. So check that out, folks. Please subscribe. Thank you for bringing so many people on there. I'm going to scan that QR code. I'm going to do it right here myself. There we go. Well, you could actually probably be watching. You could be watching. So we do something that's called watch parties. Yeah. And it's something we're trying to develop because people should be discussed. And it's our show, but the points that you're talking about, right. I've always envisioned this. And Barbie and I started one in California 2 cycles ago, and it's growing now. Believe it or not, in California, right? People actually do want to talk about and discuss what these issues are. Listen to together and then talk about it. Amen. That's how we get the changes happening, right?
That's right. Amen.
So you're in the second cycle here now. And how is that campaign? Back to my point. To me, I live by this credo. When was the last time? And I ask people this sometimes, and I'm not asking you this. We already talked a little bit about it, so moving on. But when was the last time you were curious enough to change your mind about something?
Ooh, that's good.
In other words, find out the information, find out the details. Are you curious enough to, as a farmer, to see what decision would be best for your farm moving down the road, whether it be one or the other candidate? It's that kind of thing that I think is important for this country to start making its move back to the 50s, where the great middle class meant something. More people are falling out than coming in. What did your campaign? How did that shape? Anything changing to shape your views as you talk to people?
That's a tremendous question, Rodd. In 2022, I didn't know a lot about politics.
Absolutely. I get it.
Yeah. In the last 4 years, my name recognition has increased significantly. My social
That's
media
good.
following has quadrupled or quintupled. Yeah. So, what's happened is, and I've made friends because I can. Mark Wayne Mullen has become a dear friend. I knew James Langford ahead of time. Kevin Stitt was a friend, but
I got to hook up with those folks too, by the way, if you can slide me a later.
Mark Wayne and Christy, just amazing people. I met Charlie Kirk. In fact, I met Charlie Kirk in 2021. So just about 6 months before I started my first campaign, and became friends with him. And so we would go all over Oklahoma. I would introduce him, to people, and he and Erica would come. And in fact, I've got
she's an amazing woman.
She is. And I tell you, Candace Owens, people listening who like, Candace, I loved Candace. But I don't know what's happened. Tucker Carlson, Candace.
What is going on with those folks? What's
I
don't
know. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I listened to I listened to Candace the other day, and I don't want to misrepresent her, because I respect the heck out of her. But she said Charlie Kirk was turning against Israel, and Mossad, the Jews, are implicated in his assassination. And I'm putting a picture up of Charlie here. This is my favorite one.
I love that. That.
He was eating an ice cream cone.
This was a few years ago then. This was earlier on, this closer to 2022, right?
This is the fall of 2021.
Okay,
and so he and Erica had just been married for, a few months. But I listened to Candace, and she's like, Charlie changed his mind on Israel. And I'm like, Candace, where are you getting that from? That's not even close to the truth. But here's what I think, Rod. I love Tucker. I love Candace. I love, Bangino. I love these guys who have, not Bangino, the other podcaster, who've kind of turned against Israel. I love them. But they're using Charlie, and they're saying he was turning. I'm like, guys, I don't know what he said to you, but I know what he said to me. He loved the nation of Israel. He loved the Jewish people. And he realized, not for theological reasons, he realized that in the Levant, the Middle East, Israel was the only country that gave liberty to its people. It was surrounded by tyrannical Islamic despots who persecuted their people. So I don't know, Rod, except to say this. I think there's a battle going on in realms that we don't see. Yeah. And the Apostle Paul said, our battle is not against flesh and blood. I'm like you. I don't agree or believe everything Donald Trump is doing is correct. I don't like a lot of his personality. I get that. But his policies, by the way, it's interesting about Roger Stone, who is one of his closest friends, called me this past weekend. Roger Stone and I know Donald Trump's background. Donald Trump's dad trained Donald Trump. In 1988, Donald Trump was talking about taking Carg Island, and he never thought about running for president. But he made the statement, if I were president, I would take Carg Island and I would shut down the oil flow of the tyrannic despots of Iran. Well, here we are 40 years later, and he's doing what he said in 88. So here's the deal. I appreciate
that's not the only thing. I mean, you could go back every single point when he was on with Oprah. One of the things he said, if you go to Venezuela, Take the freaking oil.
Same thing.
You know, I mean, back
He's
in
been
88,
consistent.
this is a man. That's why I still trust. Not that I haven't, I shouldn't say that. That's why I trust and verify, because
I'm with you.
you know what? These people, all the Democrats loved him, Oprah Winfrey's and all Hollywood, until he became a Republican. And that's where that's actually, he started my real concern about where our country's going 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, when he talks about draining the swamp.
Rodd,
he's exposing them.
No, Rodd, you're exactly right. Let me say this. I like you because you.
Thank you.
I know I do. You're a classical liberal in the sense of freedom, of independence, of trust,
Yep.
and verify. That's the way I am. Here's the thing. Because I write history books, because I go to bed counting years in my head, going back to 4000 BC. And so my wife lived in Tehran. We know Iran.
Way.
The Persian people are amazing.
They-
I know more about
Do you know how awesome that country actually is? The history of all the intelligence. Our world is going to get better as soon as that whole thing's solved. Because of the Persians.
The Persian people,
Absolutely.
and here's what people don't understand. The Persian people, their first king, mentioned in Isaiah 45, verse 1, his name is Cyrus. He is called in Hebrew the Messiah of Yahweh, the Jewish God. The Persian people love the Jews. The Persian people love Donald Trump. The Persian people, they despise their tyrannical Arabic Shia Islamic overlords. By the way, I'm very clear about Shia. Some of my best friends are Sunni Muslims. The Abrahamic Accords have been signed by the Sunnis of Saudi Arabia. They've been signed by the Sunnis of Dubai. They've been signed by the Sunnis of Oman. They've been signed by all the Sunnis, even Pakistan. The Shias believe in the 13th Imam, that the world cannot come, that the great Messiah of Muslims cannot come until Armageddon. Those are Shias. The Sunnis are making peace with the Jews, and the Persian people love the Jews. So, Rodd, here's the deal. I know enough.
They're actually connected through history. The Persian people
Incredibly
were the Jews.
connected.
Yeah.
October the 13th, 539 BC. You're talking about Cyrus, king of Persia, conquering Babylon.
Yep.
And that night, the king of Babylon is taken down. It's during the days of Daniel, and the Jews were freed to go home by Cyrus. If you walk in to the British Museum in London, the first thing you see, you walk up the steps, you turn to the right to buy your ticket. First thing you see under spotlights is called the Cyrus cylinder, and it looks like a big corn cob, and it's made of clay. And Cyrus had it stenciled where he freed the Jews to go back to Jerusalem. And by the way, the Jews today, the Persians, they love Donald Trump. The Jews have renamed the Golan Heights the Trump Heights. The Persian people are calling.
Did they really?
No, they
I
did.
didn't hear that.
No, it's the
that's
Trump
good.
Heights.
That's
The Persian
cool.
people are calling out for Donald Trump. So here's what I would say to anybody listening to me. I know it sounds scary. I know people are like afraid, but here's what I would say. Come this July the 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of our country, by God's grace, we will be at a place where, for the first time in a long time, America will have leadership based upon moral authority and integrity. Iran will be free, and the Persian people will be celebrating in the streets like they did when the Jews and America bombed the despots in the beginning. I think we are, by the way, from an economic standpoint, we will be the people that nations come to buy oil. I believe, and by the way, Rodd, you'll rewind and go back. I believe on July the 4th, Trump is going to do something that is going to shock the world. And here's what I think he's going to do. I believe he's going to tie United States treasuries to gold, and he will revalue gold. And he will say to people, our treasuries will now be gold backed. Now, this is not me saying it. This is a former Treasury Director, Judy Shelton, who wrote about it. I think
like
it's
the current one. He's pretty bright.
You know, Besant is amazing. His home was number 3 on Charleston Lane in Charleston, South Carolina. And number 1 is my dream house to buy one day. Besant is an amazing guy. But here's the thing. I'm telling people listening, the problem with DC right now is you've got people who don't know history, who don't know economics, who don't know liberty, and they go there to get rich. I know, I believe, because of a lifetime of learning, all those things, and I'm going there and not taking a dime. I'm going there to make our country better.
Hey, let me ask you this. So let's get a couple of these questions. I think we've got a lot of comments that are going to be coming up, which you'll enjoy very much. We've got a couple of questions here, and we're kind of going back a little bit, and I like this question what Danny has here, because it's kind of the whole thing, and it's what you're running on.
Yeah.
And how can leaders stay accountable to everyday voters? So, and we're going to talk about rural America here in a minute as well. So the point I'm getting at is what we've talked about. Kind of add for Danny what you see as what that color between the layers should be. Because like we said, you may come there for not you, but yes, somebody may come there for a reason, for a purpose. You know, a stop sign that needs to be built. So local government, I'm going to run to make sure that happens. You know, there's things that government brings people to do. Yes. But then as they go, it starts to change. How can we defend against that? How can leaders stay accountable to every? He's not asking will leaders be, but how can that be made true? Where we talked about transparency earlier in the very earliest comments. Yes. How does that happen for everyday voters to get accountable leaders?
Well, there are 3 bills that I've already written that I will introduce within the first day or first week that I get to Congress. I've already published one. The first bill that holds leaders accountable would be this, and it's a simple thing. There have been 5 government shutdowns in the last 2.5 years. And Congress, the House of Representatives, is responsible for funding the government. Yeah. So my first bill is the No Pay Act, which basically says if the government shuts down, Congress do not get paid, senators and representatives. But then here's the hook. They're already debating it now, but my bill has this hook. The moment government is reopened, all the monies, including benefits that have been held in escrow, will not be back paid to senators and representatives, but it will be given to the Treasury to reduce the national debt.
Oh, I like that. Oh, what a great idea. That's an arrow. That's one of those arrows you're going to be taking.
No, bingo. I've already written the bill, Rod. And here's the thing. Yeah. People will say to me, oh, yeah, but it'll never be heard. It'll never get out of committee. Well, guess what? I have 0 problem getting on Fox News and naming the people who will not get it out of committee.
Yeah, me too.
CNN, if CNN will have me on, I will do that.
Oh, I don't know if they'll. That'd be an interesting one. That'd be a nice evolution. That seems to go back and forth. But
maybe. So
you know
that's the first.
Hold on. You know, we've been going an hour and 40 minutes already.
It's incredible.
I mean, it didn't feel like that. We're still well over 1,000 people. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I just looked at the clock.
The other one is term limits, and what I mean by that is this: we've got to come to an understanding that term limits are best for the country. Now, people will come back. Even people said this to me. Wade, you said 6 years, but you get there, you make a difference. You may need to be there 12. And my point is this: everybody thinks that. Everybody think. So no. Here's the deal. You may lose some really good people, but you know what? It's worth it to lose the really rotten people that are doing nothing. So term limits is key.
Well, ones that are doing nothing, there's tons of them. I mean, probably the majority of them. And there's an occasional thing that happens where somebody really runs something great through that's awesome. I'll give you an example. This derby here, the rattlesnake derby, that was created in 1930s during the Great Depression. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah.
He started one of those work programs, right? Shovel-ready work programs.
WPA, yeah.
Exactly. And we've got a couple of those here. They're kind of marked out in the, but he did, here's the funny thing. So a work program, because it was the Great Depression for people who didn't have jobs. But the second half of that same thing was environmental cleanup. And I just get a chuckle out of the thought of cleaning up the environment by capturing rattlesnakes. I just thought that was kind of funny and unique. But I mean, every once in a while, something comes along where a leader steps up and affects at the end of the day, nothing should go through Congress or the Senate that isn't first past this rule. Does it help the great American middle class in some way? Now, we may be going to war, we may be doing this or something else somewhere else, but is that action debated out? Is that helping the American people? And that's not what's done enough right now.
That's called the common good. I agree with you, Rod.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back up here. I skipped something. Oh, I want to know about this because of, we talked about the Mangum 2030 and the rural initiative program. What are the biggest concerns that you hear? And I want this for myself because I live in it, right? And a lot of your district, our district 3 is rural. Like you said, it's half, and it's rural. So what do you? How would you like to ask Ms. Bowman here?
Okay, Ms. Bowman, what an incredible question. I'm going to give you the top 3, and I'm going to
great question.
Yeah. Number 1, rural healthcare, meaning hospitals. I believe rural healthcare is significantly important. And I think that there are things that can be done in terms of grants and subsidies to empower rural health. It is unconscionable that we can't get doctors to rural areas, but I believe there are ways that can be changed. And because of my wife, who is her specialty is in this, that's a priority. Number 2, education. Now, here's the thing about rural education. Here's what I mean about that. When 4 years ago, I went to some of the rural schools, and I'll put Mangum here. They were unbelievable. I would walk into these schools, and it would be, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It would be spotless on the floors. But here's the problem. And I'm going to make a few people upset with this, but I'm going to say it. Some of your large union activists are taking the money that Mangum and Granite and Alva and all these places in Western Oklahoma are giving based upon attendance. And it's not coming back to Western Oklahoma. It's going to Oklahoma City. It's going to Tulsa. And you're pouring money into these urban centers. And it should be going to Western Oklahoma. And you say, okay, why is it not? The reason it's not is complicated, but I know why it's not. And I promise you on the federal level, I desire to fix that. Third, farming. We've already talked about it, is huge. And one of the things that I've been involved in this week that I'm just stunned about. I didn't realize the number of farms that were using what's called humanure, which is human waste feces as fertilizer. And so I've been digging into this with the Department of Environmental Quality. Oh, it's crazy. Okay. It's bad. Okay. So farmers.
Makes you think Soylent Green a little bit, doesn't it? Remember that movie, Soylent Green?
It's just crazy. Okay,
ahead.
but here's what most people don't understand. In fact, I've gotten a few comments on one of the posts that I put up. They're like, wait a minute, we use cow manure, we use, animal manure. Why can't we use, human waste, human manure? Humanure is what they call it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have never seen a cow ingest or digest. And then I listed like 50 chemical substances, including illicit narcotics that come out in human waste. And then what's happening is it goes overland, and people say, oh yeah, but it's processed. No, it's not. Out in rural communities, they throw a little lime on it, and they're told that the lime and the sun will take care of all the poisons. But it doesn't happen that way. I think farmers need to understand they're being sold the bill of goods by pharmaceutical companies, by big corporations. And the truth of the matter is, what we've got to do is we've got to support the local, rural, family farmers. And I know people are saying, oh, yeah, but look at fertilizer going through the Hormuz Strait. It's going there. They're not going to be able to get it. It's going to be too expensive. Then you know what? Why don't we take about $10 billion from illegal Somalians in Minneapolis and deposit it in Western Oklahoma to pay for fertilizer, which is a national security issue for the food that feeds our nation. So here's the deal. The United States Congress can battle that, and I'm smart enough to make bills that make that happen, to present it, and I'm courageous enough, if it's not going to be heard or given out of committee, I will get on television and I will say, look, these guys are my brothers. I respect them, but I'm telling you, America needs to know the truth. This is what has happened. This is why my bill is not being heard. And if you want this change, you better get on the horn and call your representative. That's what I'll do.
I love that. Let me go back here. I was going to bring this one up, but as you move to another number a little bit, and by the way, you're more than welcome to come on to our show and make those same comments. Would you read this out loud?
Great show. Loving this live energy.
I love what you're talking about. Boy, that was a young guy too. Look at Jack.
Yeah.
He looks like early 20s here.
Thank you, Jack.
I love that, man. I love that. I think we're starting, I had a conversation with producer Barbie a couple of years ago, before Trump's first run. She had never voted, ever. And we talked, and I'm very active, always been pretty active in politics. I mean, right. You know what I mean. I'm just somebody who knows stuff. And so she told me, I said, man, you've never voted, you've never any election or and there's a lot of people that feel this way, and I think it's starting to change. She said, "Why should I vote? My vote doesn't matter. I mean, they don't even listen to me." And really, a lot of it is now because people vote on commercials. They saw a commercial of somebody, or they recognize the name, so they feel like, okay, I'm going to do my service duty and I'm going to vote. She also believes that people shouldn't be allowed to vote until they've passed a certificate or something, which actually makes kind of sense as you see what people do. Right. And if we could just pull that into the educational system where people are now growing up within that knowledge and not entering what happens now is people finish high school totally dumb. I mean, yeah, they know how to take tests and all that. I get it. And then they go into college or they go into trade school or they go right into work. Mm-hmm. But they're going into that totally blind at how the world works. Mm-hmm. We should be teaching that up through, I don't want to do this question. This wasn't the one I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask, where's my rural? Here we go. So we already talked about that. What I want to know is about the separation. Well, let's talk about this. How young people can get involved in civic leadership today. First of all, we're kind of leaning on that right now, but how critical is it for young people to get involved? They don't really have a lot invested at that point in their age. But
Mhm.
but how important is it, and how can they?
Local schools, local civic groups. I mean, I'm part of Rotary, and we have young people who are our guests at Rotary. And so, if any young person is listening to this, Charlie Kirk got involved when he was in high school, and he would talk to people about his vision, and people would laugh at him. And by the way, if you know this, he was a little ADD, a little autistic. I mean,
Absolutely.
mild on the spectrum.
Yep.
But he was a little unsocial, a little awkward. But I'm telling you, he had a vision. And so anybody listening to this, just go for it. It is amazing what God can do with a young person that has a vision. So get off the couch and start thinking, how can I get involved? And then just do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What's the old saying? It's like on this show, I always talk about, we've started a journey of 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
I think I'm on about 600 steps now, something like that. So we've started that journey. You got to start somewhere. And then it becomes, it's funny because I've talked to people about this, and it's like things just kind of roll out in front of you after a while. And it's like you could see, okay, I got to do that next, or this is coming in, and starting these political discussions and so forth.
Yeah.
And they've said back to me, they said, it's because you're so invested in your vision. It starts to roll because it's your mind's working on it. So if they're starting at that younger age, right, it can start to build that up.
Yeah.
I have one more question and then a couple of comments, and I want you to, if you don't mind, anything we haven't hit, and I want you to start off in talking about what we talked in the beginning. What's the one thing you want people to take away from you here in this discussion? We'll get to that in a second. But I was actually going to bring this on earlier, and I kept going back and forth between young leadership, youth leadership, getting involved, the difference in the rural community, because I think these really are three critical things. Dennis asks here, how do you view the balance between federal and state power? And that's a big deal right now, because I mean, you said Minnesota. Yeah, there's certain things that states can't do. They're not allowed to do. And yet we're getting all weirded up here. Sorry, I use weird terms. But what do you think between the balance of federal? Because it's a critical balance. It's important.
Well, Dennis, I can tell he's a thinker.
He is.
Yeah, just by the question.
Absolutely.
That's an important question. And here's how I would answer it. I've always been a states' rights guy, always, because I understand that in the beginning, we were a conglomeration of individual sovereign states. However, during the Civil War, and Rodd, I'll say something, and Dennis, if you're listening, I'll say something I think you'll never forget. Prior to the Civil War, it was always the United States of America are. So it was a plural verb to the United States of America. After the Civil War,
Really?
it was a singular verb. The United States of America is. Yeah, now, when the Thunder became the Oklahoma City Thunder, I always wondered, are they going to use a plural verb, the Oklahoma City Thunder are in the playoffs? And if you notice, they always say the Oklahoma City Thunder is in the playoffs.
Oh.
Singular verb. So my point is this. Even though I've always been a states' rights guy, since the Civil War, I understand what Lincoln fought for. We are a federal union, federalized. And so here's what I would say. I'm sympathetic for the states, but right now, where we're at, I do not believe California, Minnesota, New York, Wisconsin, 5 states can run the United States of America. And so I think to whatever extent federal power inhibits state power for the common good of citizens, you would have to call me a federalist, even though I'm sympathetic towards states' power. So I don't know if I answered your question, except to say there's a balance there. And right now, because of the socialism, Marxism, communism of New York and California, I am having to lean toward the federalist side because of the Constitution, and will not. I'll fight tooth and toenail against New York dictating what this country will be. Thanks, Rodd.
So I've got 2 comments here I want you to read. Jack popped back up after you read his question a couple of questions ago. And would you read that out loud?
Yeah,
well, I've got 2 comments, and then go into your conclusion if you're good.
Yeah, awesome live stream. Keep it up. Thanks, Jack, for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. Absolutely. And subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Johnny here. Wow. Okay. John, you're okay. This is awesome. Really enjoying. Sorry, read it out loud.
Really enjoying this live discussion.
All right, so I'm gonna throw you in the green room here in a minute, and I'll close up, and we'll hook up backstage. But as a closing comment, as a final thought, as something to build on more, what do you want to tell your 1,000 fans here, and then give them a big wave? I'll throw you in there. Just keep your hands off the green peanuts. You promised already. And you're a man of God, so I believe you. Go on.
You're funny, Rodd. Hey, for all of those listening, first of all, I want to thank Rodd and Barbie for this podcast. Just very impressed with what they're doing in Mangum, and I sure hope the roundup this weekend is great for the city and for all those who come. For those of you watching who are in CD3, I don't need to go to Washington. In some ways, I even dread it. But I'm telling you, God has spoken to me through you, and I'm willing to go if you believe what I'm saying is what you and your family need. But understand this, I'm not taking your money. I'm not sending you a sign. You'll not see a television commercial. It's going to be word of mouth. Wade, like Wade in the water. Burleson.
Hold on, say that again. Yeah. That was brilliant.
No, like Wade in the water. I'm wading in the water. Burleson is Irish. Surnames come from either occupations, locations, or family relation. Burleson, son of the burly man. That was an occupation. A burly man was someone who pulled knots out of burlap sacks. They pulled knots out. If you send me to Washington in CD3 on June 16th, 2026 to you, I close with this promise. I will wade in the water to Washington, D.C., and I will do my best to pull the knots out of government to make sure that our country survives another 250 years. Thank you for listening. Wade Burleson, United States Congress, CD3.
And let me tell you this. Producer Barbie just popped on to tell you what a great job she saw going on. And so Producer Barbie, give a quick hi. He's about ready to go in the green room, and he promises not to touch the green team.
Thank you, Barbie.
Sounds promising then.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. That was a great show. Barbie, I'll call you back, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. All right, bye. And so awesome show. Great job, Wade. Wade in the water. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And I always find, interesting what's interesting after conversations like this. It's not just what is said, but what starts to connect, right? Because when you step back for a second just step back for a second, you realize this wasn't just one conversation, a conversation about one person, about one campaign, or even one district. It's about something bigger. It's about how people move from one world to another. And that's what we're talking about throughout this. But in this case, from ministry to public life, from private conversations to public responsibility, from talking with people to trying to represent them. And whether you agree or disagree, you know what? Or you're still trying to figure out, you know what? That transition matters. Because it says something about the moments we're in, about this moment. And here's the part I want you to really think about. Pause with me here. I want you to think about this. As we head into this week with tens of thousands of people coming into this town, and we go out there and actually start talking to them, you're going to start hearing something, okay? Not from headlines, not from commentators, but from people, And when you start to connect those voices with conversations like this one we just had here today, that's when things get real, okay? That's when you begin to understand not just where someone stands, but how that lines up with what people are actually living. And that's what this show is all about. It's not about telling you what to think. Never will be. Can't be. Shouldn't be. It's about giving you enough perspective, enough real conversation that you can start connecting those dots for yourself. That's what matters. That's what a democratic republic is. Educated. So if this conversation meant something to you, don't just watch this one episode. Watch a few. Get a feel of what we're building here, because this isn't a one-off. This is a growing conversation across communities, across backgrounds, across perspectives. Make sure you subscribe to @Rodd Duff 1939 on YouTube. Jump over to our Substack to follow us at Insights and Straight Talk. We do 3 Substacks a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Barbieisms, Poem in Pages, and Friday Mic Drop. And then read my weekly column in the Mangum Star News, where in the Mangum Star News, that's a weekly column. And you know what? If you're near the city square, and I mean that to you too, Wade, if you're near the city square, well, stop in. Let us meet in person. My studio's on the top floor of the Mangum Library. You're welcome anytime. Please be there. And of course, share this episode with someone who needs to hear a conversation like this one. So most importantly, stay in the conversation, because the future of places like Mangum, like District 3, and communities all across this country is going to be shaped by the people who are willing to stay engaged. We'll see you on the next one. I'm Rodd Duff. I'm your host. And like I always say at this time in the show, I'm out of here.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. June 16th,